Perfect. So for the recording, I just wanted to say that, information is still changing for us quickly as a new program. So what you see today, if you're watching this later, might not still be up to date. But just wanted to say that for the recording. So awesome. Thank you all so much for having us here today. I'm Boyd Hammond. I'm the Director of Admissions and Recruitment for the UC San Diego PA program. I'm also a PA. I'll tell you more about that in a few slides here. I also have with us our program director, Dr. Villarreal, and then Nadia May, who is our admissions coordinator / student affairs officer is her official title. So you'll learn a little more about them later as well. But are we good to get started then?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, perfect. So first thing I want to say is I'm going to move through these slides kind of quickly so we have some time for questions and answers afterwards. If you want to hear us go a little more in depth about this information or hear it again, you're more than welcome to come to one of our Meet the Programs. So we have some of our 2024 dates up online now and with more to come. So keep an eye out for that. And those are both in person if you happen to be over in our area or virtual as well. So just keep that in mind as we move through things today. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our faculty and staff who we have here at the program. I'll tell you about our program specifics, our program of study, and our curriculum. And then we'll spend a good chunk of time, of course, on our admissions process and requirements. So our faculty here, I think I'll turn it over now to Dr. Villarreal to introduce himself as our program director and associate dean.
Hi, yes, good to meet everyone. Buenas noches, or buenas tardes still, I think. And we're over here in a slightly different time zone, but we're good. So good to see you all. I am Elias Villarreal. I'm the Associate Dean, Program Director for this brand new program. I am originally from South Texas, where I worked as a PA and as a PA faculty member at the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley for 20 years, after which I transitioned to Arizona. I was in, some of you may have seen me before when I was the program director at Northern Arizona University's PA program in Phoenix, where I was for 5 years. I left in I started in 2017, left in 2022 to join this program, and I've been here since. I am in family practice, I'm a professor of family medicine, and work here seeing patients as well. I have been a PA for just under 30 years and have been in PA education about as long as well. So it's been a long and fruitful career, and thank you for having me.
Great, thank you. So moving along here, next you'll see our medical director, Dr. Savoya. So she comes to us from the MD program, medical education side of things, and is a great wealth of knowledge. She's been with UC San Diego since the late 1970s, actually. So an awesome person to have in our corner. She's an infectious disease physician as well. And then our director of didactic education is Jeffrey Williams. He has worked for a couple of different PA programs, but comes to us most recently from Weber State University. Before that, he also spent some time in Texas in PA education, and he's an internal medicine PA as well, worked both inpatient and outpatient. And he most recently was the director of didactic education for another program and helped them get up and started as well. And then we have our director of clinical education and simulation, and that's Joyce Neiman. So she comes to us from University of Colorado, where she spent the last 17 years before coming over here as that really in that same position for University of Colorado. As far as being a PA, she's done a few different things. I know GI, internal medicine as well. She did endocrine at one point, so has some varied experiences as a PA too. And then, like I said, I'm Boyd Hammond. I'm the Director of Admissions and Recruitment. I actually, too, come from the University of Colorado. So I was general faculty there before taking on this role. I worked a lot in the classroom, but I worked really closely with admissions and DEI efforts for our program. And then I practice endocrine, and I'm an endocrine PA. So that is our faculty. We have our staff faces too, in case you email us and want to put a face to a name. So our program coordinator is Lane Bihar. Our clinical placement and credentialing coordinator is Cassandra Bengen. And then, like I said, someone that you may come in contact with when you're dealing with us as far as admissions goes is our student affairs officer, and her name is Nadia May. So awesome. So just to give an update, you know, of course, ARC accreditation is a big deal, and you may have looked at us earlier and saw that we were applying for accreditation, but we did find out we did receive our provisional accreditation. So we got that great news a little bit earlier in the fall, and so we are provisionally accredited program. And then our master's degree is the other piece we're working through as far as getting our program launched and running, and that's making its way through the University of California system. So we have more updates to come on that in the future, which you can keep checking our website and whatnot for announcements as far as that goes. All right, so how to get in touch with us. So we're, of course, in technically La Jolla, California, but San Diego. As far as calling or emailing, I would highly recommend shooting us an email. We're still working on getting our physical space up and running, and so email is the best way to reach us. You can definitely shoot us a phone call and leave a voicemail, and it will get to us eventually, but email is your best bet. And then here is our website as well. So it's a good thing to check out. You know, our admissions policy is up there. So everything I talked about in the admissions section is really up there for you to look back on, as well as where we post updates, and then also our Meet the Program events if you want to attend another one in the future. So our mission and vision. So I'm not going to read you every word of this, of course, but there are a few things we like to point out since they really drove the curriculum we created, as well as parts of our admissions plan. So I like to highlight here that the Atkinson Physician Assistant Education Program will recruit and retain learners who reflect the diverse population of California. So, you know, we'd like to highlight our commitment to creating a diverse cohort, and we look at diversity very broadly. So different backgrounds, different socioeconomic levels, anything that can make an individual bring something different to a group. And so we do have a commitment there. And then also we part of our goal is to get back to the provider shortage in California, specifically down here in Southern California, but California as a whole. And so that is part of the admissions process. People get to share their ties to California. So all of you right now are not in California, but that doesn't mean you don't have a tie. Maybe you were born there, lived here in the past, have family here, or had family here, and we want to hear all about that. So that is part of our mission. Let's move along here. So our program of study and curriculum. So our degree that we're working on getting approved is the Master of Advanced Study in Physician Assistant Studies. Our cohort size is 30 students. So, you know, a little bit on the smaller size compared to some other PA programs out there. The other thing you'll notice is we don't have plans to increase that anytime. So sometimes new programs say they're going to go up by 5 students per year until they reach their maximum. But we want to stay at that smaller cohort size that still allows us to have, of course, all the resources of a large institution like UC San Diego, but really be able to get to know our students and have that small class size. Our curriculum length is 29 months. So the average PA length is 27 months for a PA program. So we're just slightly longer than that. And that was intentional. You know, you'll see throughout our curriculum, we also built in some more breaks during the clinical year to really focus on student wellness. And that lends to a slightly longer program there. Our program will matriculate in June and graduate in October for our start and stop dates. And then we are on the quarter credit model. So I'm not sure about you all at University of Arizona, but most of the UC systems are on quarter credits, and we will be as well. One thing that's different is, you know, if you have friends in undergrad and whatnot, they do 12-week quarters over here, but we are going to do 12-week quarters. So a little bit different there. All right, and here is our didactic curriculum. So, you know, I'm not going to read through all of these classes individually for you, of course, but we do like to point out a couple of things about our curriculum. So first of all, 88 quarter credits is a lot, but, you know, that's not unique to us. There's a lot to learn in PA school, and we're no different. One thing I like to show is that Arrive and Thrive course up top. So, you know, we really want to set our students up for success. So we have everyone start with a 0 credit class. So no stress, no grade, right? And that's really to get to know the program, to get to know us, and to know what we have to offer resource-wise and what the institution has to offer resource-wise in the School of Medicine here. So, so we're happy to be able to offer that before we really hit the ground running. You'll also notice that we have our medical interview and physical exam courses right in that first quarter. We think that's a great way to set up students to kind of have a basic understanding of what exams they would do or what history questions they would ask as they learn about different disease states throughout the rest of the curriculum. The other thing I like to point out is a lot of our curriculum, you'll see these series, so clinical medicine 1, 2, 3, at the same time as pharmacology 1, 2, 3, and whatnot. And that gives us the ability to really overlap as far as what we're teaching. So if you're learning about cardiac diseases in clinical medicine, you'll likely be learning about cardiology pharmacology in your pharmacology course. So that can help with some cognitive load since PA school is really difficult. So you'll see that move throughout the curriculum. And then to highlight a few things here in our clinical curriculum. So if you've looked at a lot of PA schools, clinical curriculums tend to look pretty similar from school to school, and that's because we have a lot of required rotations from our accrediting body that we need to offer. So those are family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics, women's health, mental and behavioral health, surgery health, and emergency medicine. And so those will be the same when you look at PA school to PA school. What is somewhat unique about us is that we are actually offering 3 full electives, which is kind of rare now in PA education as it gets tougher and tougher for students to get rotations. And so we are really happy about that. And then that lends us to these unique clinical concentrations that we have here. So I want to spend a little bit of time telling you about those. So the first one is primary care, and that means you would spend all 3 of your elective rotations in some sort of clinic around primary care. So it doesn't mean you'll be at the same family medicine for all 3 months, although that could be a possibility at some point. But really, it means that you'll spend an extra month in pediatrics, an extra month in family medicine, and maybe an extra month in internal medicine, really becoming a well-rounded student in primary care. And one of the reasons for that is we know that those loan repayment programs are becoming a greater and greater option with the rising cost, of course, of education and PA education too. And so we want students to be competitive for those. And so we feel that if students do a primary care concentration and then apply for a loan repayment program in primary care, that can help set them up for success. Along those same lines is our specialty care concentration. So same train of thought, but in a specialty. So we know that emergency medicine, say, is a really competitive specialty for students to get right after they graduate. And so we feel that if we have a student that's able to do a specialty care concentration in emergency medicine, they would be more competitive for those jobs than other new grads. And so we are excited to offer that as well. We foresee it being really in most specialties. And so of course it'll depend on the rotations we have, but that's our goal with our specialty care concentration. Again, it doesn't mean you'll spend all 3 months in the same ER, but maybe you'll do an extra ER rotation, an extra urgent care, and then maybe an oncology ER, maybe another rural ER or something like that. So just to get that well-rounded education in that specialty to help students be successful in job placements after graduation. And then one that is definitely unique to us is our rural and border health concentration. So, just based on our geography, we have the benefit of being able to offer this. And so a lot of the sites, or really all of the sites that are offering border health care are also rural. So that's why this concentration covers both. It's another great option for the loan repayment programs because students will obviously be really set up to be competitive for those positions with this concentration as well. One thing to keep in mind, these are all on our side of the border. So at this point, all of our rotations will take place in California down by the border, but on our side of the border. There may be volunteer opportunities outside of that with the School of Medicine and whatnot that we might try to get our students involved in as well, but these rotations will happen here. But just another option that we're proud to be able to offer our students. Those were the specialties I just told you about there. So this is our overall curriculum at a glance. So this covers both the didactic and clinical curriculum that we just went over. You'll see that the total quarter credits is 136. So lots of credits there, lots of work, but a curriculum that we're proud to be able to offer. All right, let's talk about admissions now. Seeing where we're at in time, and we're doing just fine. So now that we're approaching the next cycle, we really are focusing on the next cycle in this part of our presentation, of course, admissions wise. Did anyone, I don't know if you want to use the chat, or did anyone apply this cycle? Give like a couple seconds to see. Yes, so applying this this next cycle that's about to open. Yes, not the last cycle. Perfect. All right, that's what this is all based on. So so that sounds great. So as you all know, if you are applying this coming cycle, the CASPA opens in April, end of April, and that's when our secondary application will open as well. And then students will apply, or I should say applicants will apply between May and July. And then here are our important deadlines. So August 1st is when our CASPA application and secondary application are due. And then September 1st is when the CASPA application needs to be verified. So that shouldn't be a problem. CASPA says that during the busy time of the cycle, it takes about 2 weeks to possibly a month to have your application verified. That's why we have that August 1st deadline. And then after everything is submitted, we plan to do interviews fall/winter. Really, we'll be looking at the fall moving forward, and then matriculate that class in June with our Arrive and Thrive course, like we talked about. So let's talk about our requirements. So here are our minimum requirements. So like I said, that CASPA application with official transcripts submitted by that August 1st deadline, verified by CASPA by September 1st. Secondary application also submitted by the August 1st deadline. We require evidence of U.S. citizenship, permanent U.S. residence, or current DACA recipient. One thing I like to mention there is that right now, CASPA doesn't really have a great way of telling us when a student or an applicant is a DACA recipient. So at this point, it looks like they don't meet one of these criteria, and so we've been emailing them, but then they've been clarifying for us and providing documentation, and so we've been fine to move past it. But if you are applying as a DACA recipient, keep in mind you might first get an email from us, and then you'll be able to inform us and provide that documentation. So a bachelor's degree or higher from regionally accredited U.S. institution or equivalent prior to matriculation. So we do accept degrees from abroad, although that doesn't probably apply to you all logging in today from your institution. Completed prerequisite coursework. And I will say, you'll see in a second too, but we do require that all the prerequisite coursework is completed at a U.S. institution. So do keep that in mind. We require a minimum overall undergraduate GPA of greater than or equal to 3, or overall graduate GPA of greater than or equal to 3. So what you'll see there is that big or, right? So, we know that sometimes students might have a rough first semester, or maybe just a rough random semester during school where they had family stuff going on and whatnot. And we really just wanted to be able to still get those applications in front of our eyes. And so that's why we have that or graduate GPA of greater than or equal to 3. And so what we mean there is really one full-time semester of graduate level coursework is fine. You don't have to have a master's degree per se. You just have to have completed that one full-time graduate level coursework to show us that you can handle the rigors of a master's program. So keep those GPA cutoffs in mind. And then the same for undergraduate sciences GPA of greater than or equal to 3, or graduate science GPA of greater than or equal to 3. Point out, the thing I like to mention here too is we use CASPA's definition of a science GPA. And so CASPA actually includes a lot of coursework as science courses, and so that's all up to them. We don't recalculate that, but their website has a great list of which courses they consider sciences, and really normally it's very, very beneficial to the students. So rather than saying we only take chemistry, biology, and physics for your science GPA, or only using the prerequisite courses for your science GPA, we use anything that CASPA calls a science GPA. So that tends to help students raise that GPA number a little bit. We do require a minimum of 500 hours of healthcare experience, and that can be volunteer or paid, and we'll talk more about that in a few slides here. And then 3 letters of recommendation. And so we do require that those 3 letters of recommendation be submitted by that August 1st deadline. We had some people unfortunately not able to get those in this year, and part of the confusion there is CASPA considers your application complete with only 2 of 3 in. So sometimes applicants aren't even aware. So do keep an eye on that we do require all 3 by that August 1st deadline. We're not super prescriptive about who writes your letters. So we don't have requirements that say, hey, one has to be a PA, one has to be a physician or a healthcare provider. We do like letters from healthcare experiences, right? Of course. We like letters from professors. We like letters from supervisors. anything is fine as long as someone that knows you well and speak to you professionally. What we don't want, of course, is family or friends, which we still see sometimes here and there, but we don't want letters from friends, and then also from your personal healthcare providers. We don't want your primary care provider, say, to write you a letter either. So here's our prerequisite coursework. Let's go over the courses first, and then I'll go over these guidelines on the side. So when deciding which courses that we did want to require, we really wanted to take a look at removing as many barriers as we could. So we didn't want to require a class just to require it. We really wanted to think about which courses would make someone successful both in PA school and then as a PA once they're out and practicing. We took a look at which courses were being required all over the country, in California and in our area, and then decided what we thought would be really beneficial. And this is the list that we have. You'll notice that a few of these courses say lab, but if they don't say lab, we have no lab requirement with them. So we also wanted to remove barriers there when we could, but we did want to require labs that we felt were really beneficial. So our first requirement is biological sciences. Again, not prescriptive about which courses they are. Of course, lots of people are applying with General Bio 1 and 2, which is great, but we'll take any coursework in the biological sciences. Upper division is great as well. And that's 12 quarter credit hours or 8 semester credit hours. One thing to note, though, is this is in addition to courses being used for anatomy, physiology, and microbiology. So you can't double dip. So even if your microbiology class is from that biology department, can't be used for both. So do keep that in mind. Then we require both human anatomy with lab and human physiology with lab. So those are courses that we felt the lab was definitely beneficial. We also will accept anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, both with labs as well, or the separate courses of anatomy and then physiology. But what we can't do is combine those. So if someone took anatomy and physiology 1 and then transferred schools and just took physiology, that doesn't equate to the full series. So we do require A&P 1 and 2 or separate courses, anatomy and physiology with labs. The last course that we have a lab requirement with is our microbiology course. So we require 4 quarter credit hours or 3 semester credit hours of microbiology. We require 4 quarter credit hours or 3 semester hours of chemistry. Again, not prescriptive. A lot of students will be using Gen Chem 1 there, and then no lab requirement. And then organic chemistry or biochemistry, so we will take either. And that's, again, 4 quarter credit hours, 3 semester credit hours, and no lab requirement. And then our last required course is statistics. And we will accept statistics from any department. So, a lot of people have biostats. We've seen business stats, psychology stats, really anything that prepares you to be understanding some of the research, the medical research, and have an understanding of statistics is fine. So that can be from any department. And then we do have some recommended coursework. So for those of you who maybe have some room in your schedule or are looking for other classes to take, these are great classes, not just to be a competitive applicant, but also to really prepare you for PA school and even for afterwards. So you can take a look at our recommended coursework there. We often get questions about, will this course count for genetics and whatnot? And we don't evaluate those since it's just recommended. So we tend to not answer those questions. So don't stress about the recommended coursework. It's just something there to help people be competitive applicants and well prepared. So our guidelines here, so like I said, these do need to be completed at a regionally accredited U.S. institution. We require that these are all completed by August 1st with a grade on your transcript and then verified by CASPA by September 1st. So, all PA programs are different. Some say no prereqs in progress like us. Some say, one class can be outstanding and whatnot. But for us, we do require all of these prerequisite courses be completed by the application deadline. We do require a letter or a numerical grade on the transcript. The exception would be a grade of pass for 2020 to 2021 academic year because of COVID, of course. But outside of that, we do really require a grade. So don't decide that you're not doing so hot in a class and switch to pass fail because later it might hurt you. And that's pretty common across lots of PA programs. So do be on the lookout for that. We do take AP, CLEP, and concurrent enrollment coursework for these prerequisites. The one thing there is it has to be on your transcript still. So your undergraduate institution has to have given you credit for those courses. So like we don't accept AP scores directly or anything like that. We have to see on your transcript that your institution did give you credit for that coursework. Community college and online distance courses work great, even for labs for us. Keep in mind, some schools are specific that labs need to be done in person, but we do accept online labs. And then community college for any of these courses as well is accepted. Another thing that I like is these prerequisite courses do not expire or time out. You know, some schools have an arbitrary deadline of 5 years, 8 years. We didn't want to pick some arbitrary date for that. So these courses do not expire or time out when you're applying to our program. So that was our academic prerequisites. Let's talk a little bit about our non-academic prerequisites. So like I said, that healthcare experience, minimum 500 hours, paid or volunteer. And we have another slide on that in a few slides here. Community service. So it's beneficial, not required. And what we mean by that is it doesn't have to be on your application for us to evaluate your application. But what I will say is we do score it. We do want to see community service. You know, we're passionate about having learners that are looking to give back to their communities. And so we do want to see that. So it's not required to get your application in front of us, but it's definitely beneficial since we do score it. Shadowing, so it says same thing, not required, but beneficial, but a little bit different there. So not only do we not require it, but we don't score it or give credit for it unless someone needs to use it for their 500 hours of healthcare experience. But otherwise, we know that shadowing is a really big barrier right now since COVID and, you know, with HIPAA, of course. And so we don't require shadowing. What I will say is it's beneficial for you to learn about the profession as much as you can before giving up a lot of time and money to be in the profession. So if you're not shadowing, you know, interviewing PAs, asking one to just have coffee and ask them what they like best about their job, what's the most challenging part about their job. There's other ways to really learn about the career besides shadowing. There's also virtual shadowing now, though, which seems to be becoming a much bigger option for a lot of people. So that's great too. And then special populations. So, you know, we give special consideration to different groups, such as veteran status, ties to California, and then any pipeline programs that we're working with, as well as HRSA factors. So government-defined disadvantaged backgrounds, we give special consideration to as well. Then those 3 letters of recommendation, and like I said, submitted by that August 1st deadline. Okay, so here's our healthcare hours in our healthcare levels. And so people tend to get really stressed about this. So I like to say right away that the vast majority of people are applying with level 1 or level 2 healthcare experience hours. So don't stress if you know you're like, I'm not level 3, I don't have that experience. That's not the case for most people. We just wanted to be able to give a little extra credit to those people that are already working somewhat independently with patients. And we know that then maybe those people would score lower on other parts of their application. And so to be holistic, we wanted to give them a little more credit for where they're at. But most people, like I said, will be in that level 1 and level 2 category. And this list is also not all inclusive. So if you are doing something right now for a healthcare experience and you want to know if we'll take it, shoot us an email and we're happy to let you know. We really base it on the duties that you do in your job. So even within these levels, sometimes we move them around if someone's doing a lot more than what we thought when we put the list together. So be really descriptive when you do apply on CASPA with what your individual duties are with your job titles. So keep that in mind. The other thing I like to point out is we have medical assistant on here as certified medical assistant. So sometimes it can be hard to find, but it's under level 2. We get that question a good bit. The position doesn't have to be certified. So, you know, if they hired you and you're working as a medical assistant and you're really doing those back of the office duties, then we would give you level 2 experience, whether or not it was a certified medical assistant or medical assistant, whatever they called you. So, so keep that in mind, but that's on there. Other questions, you know, we get questions about behavioral technicians, and that generally falls under that psych tech and level 1, but can vary. Sometimes those people are doing a lot of medical assistant duties, you know, and so we want to hear that, and that can be moved up. But again, this is one part of the application, and don't stress at all if your experience is level 1 or level 2, and don't worry if it's not falling in that level 3 category. Oh, and then I just want to mention you also see shadow on here. So if someone does need to use shadowing for that 500 hours of experience, we will accept that since it's definitely exposure to the healthcare world and the profession. So our secondary application, like I said, we also require, CASPA application gets us a lot of great numbers, a lot of great data. We also have the personal statements, so we can get to know you a little bit, but we want to get to know our applicants better than just what CASPA has to offer. So we do have a secondary application, which is all narratives. So it's your chance to tell us about yourselves, fill out an essay. We want to learn more about you. And so the secondary application is $135. That's the UCSD graduate school application fee. And the deadline to submit this is also August 1st. This link will be on our website, so check regularly, but also it's on CASPA. So once you get through the CASPA application, you will also see it there. So it should be pretty easy to find, but we did want to give our students or our applicants an opportunity to definitely tell us a little bit more about them, and so we can get to know them. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say is don't worry about the optional narratives if they don't apply to you, because those are not scored. Obviously, that wouldn't be fair. So those are just an opportunity for people to answer very specific questions about maybe academic hardships or whatnot, so we can learn more about them. But don't worry if they don't apply to you. You don't have to fill them out, and those sections are not scored. Oh, and we will offer a CASPA fee, a fee waiver for the secondary application for any applicant that received the CASPA fee waiver. And so this is great information as you're coming into the cycle. If you do think that you will qualify for a CASPA fee waiver, that's all done through CASPA. So, they use their criteria and whatnot to decide who gets them. I will tell you they are first come, first serve. So of course you have to meet the criteria, but they do give them out once they're out for the cycle. So keep that in mind. So I just put a few little instructions in here on how to apply for it. It should be pretty simple. So in the application, click on your name in the upper right corner. They'll have a section for fee assistance program. It's going to ask you those questions. Like I said, send them the documents, and then they'll let you know. Keep in mind with your deadlines that it can take up to 10 business days to get the yes from them. So you'll want to keep that in mind and apply early enough for a CASPA fee waiver, because what they don't do is reimburse you. So it has to be done before you send off your application to schools. And then the last step, if you are doing this for our secondary fee waiver, is actually to send us a PDF of that email that they send you that you received a fee waiver, because CASPA doesn't tell us that anymore. They used to, but students or applicants were concerned about that information being public, and so they responded by not sharing it with us. So for that reason, you just have to send us the documentation, and then we will waive your secondary fee. So here is an overall look at our holistic review process. And really the main thing we want to stress here is how many different people will be looking at your applications before we're making decisions. So we know that whether we like it or not, people have implicit biases, and we want to have our process try to remove as much of that as we can. And so there are different levels of screening and different levels of people with different eyes looking at your application as it moves through those steps that we just talked about. There's also some new information on this slide. And so you'll see here that we do virtual multiple mini interviews. So if you're not familiar with MMIs, you can look them up. The good thing is, or I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but you can't do much to prepare for them. So everyone's kind of at the same even ground when they start that MMI, which is good for eliminating some bias and some barriers and whatnot. And then the other piece there is virtual. So we would love to meet, of course, all of our applicants in person. We do value that, but we really appreciate the benefits that doing interviews virtually has for the applicant. And so not paying for flights, not paying for hotels, for food while you're there. We really felt that the benefits of removing those barriers outweighed us getting to meet you in person. So they will be virtual. So something to keep in mind as well. Here is our cost of attendance. If you're looking at just tuition, that's the top lines there. So you can add that up for just tuition if you're trying to compare program to program. The rest, of course, is estimates for living expenses for living in a very expensive city, as I can tell you, in San Diego. So we actually want those numbers to look high or to be robust, because that's how the financial aid office decides what aid to give you. So we want those estimates to be good so that students are getting enough loans to be able to cover their tuition as well as living expenses here in San Diego. A couple things to note here, of course, is that there's some fees that don't really build into the table here because they might be one-time fees like medical equipment, lab coat and whatnot. Also, we do require students to have health insurance while they're attending our program, and that's what UCSD requires of all students. And so that can look different for student to student, of course. Some might be on a partner's insurance or young enough to be on their parents. Some might do insurance through UCSD, or some might go through more or public insurance as well. So that'll differ person to person. And then just some fine print here that charges are subject to change without advance notice, although of course that's never what we plan to do. We plan to give notice if we're ever changing anything from what we tell you. If you want more information on the fees, those are UCSD wide, and so that website right there has more information on the fees at UCSD. So that is our presentation. And we would love now to open it up to question and answer. Looks like we have about 20 minutes or so for question and answer. So feel free to use the chat if you would like, if you're more comfortable using the chat to ask a question. Maybe Nadia, you can let me know what questions pop up that way. But if you are comfortable turning on your camera, we'd love to hear from you as well, and let us know what questions you have. Okay, I'm seeing the chat actually. So it looks like the first question is, what do you believe makes this program unique, desirable for PA applicants? So I will give some of my answer, and then Dr. Villarreal can add his as well too, of course. So some things that pop out to me right away. One thing is those clinical electives really stand out to me as having 3, and maybe, I went to PA school not too long ago, not super long ago, and I had 1 elective, 1.5, because I had a 2-week elective and then 1-month elective, and so I really feel like I could have gotten more out of 3 electives, whether or not I was doing, applying to one of those tracks. But being able to experience more areas of medicine, I think would have been really, really helpful. So that's one thing that pops out at me. The other thing I really like, and something that drew me to working here, is the program's commitment to DEI work and having the benefit of starting from scratch. And so being able to think about anti-racist curriculum as you're building the curriculum, thinking about barriers to admissions while you're making the admissions program is a lot easier, I suppose, than working at somewhere that's very, very well established for a long time and trying to make those changes slowly over time. So that's something that attracted me to working here, and something that I would think of would make it attractive to students as well. Those are the first things that come to my mind. Dr. Villarreal, do you want to add components that you think make this program desirable for PA applicants?
Yeah, I would love to. Not to reiterate what you already said, but you definitely hit on some of the most important ones. I think the concentrations are also unique to us. That has to do with the electives as well, but our concentrations, looking at our goals for serving rural communities, primary care communities, and then the underserved, are really important to us. And you don't see that at too many programs these days. And so we're really proud of being able to offer those. In fact, we know from the external reviewers that have seen our proposal for creation of this program, they have actually stated that our concentrations also appear to be a real benefit of our program. So we're pretty happy with those. The other thing that I would stress also is our world-class faculty. So the faculty and staff that we have hired come with a lot of experience, actually. Every single person on here has been vetted to come in with a wealth of knowledge already, not just in medicine or PA education or PA practice, but also in lived experience and dealing with students in education and dealing with just education in general, which is not an easy skill to find among practicing PAs out there. So we were lucky in being able to get some of the most premier faculty out there. So I would say that faculty and staff are definitely on my list of tops within programs. We don't have a whole lot of people who just finished PA school or who have only been PAs for a few years or have never actually taught, and this is sort of their first thing. Not a lot of that experience here at our program. And then the other thing that we're real that we're kind of trailblazers on also in the curriculum and the model that we created for a program here is that we're really focused on student success. That's not to say that other programs are not, but we took advantage of being able to create a new program um, and creating positions like faculty member positions whose role it is specifically to address student success and wellness. And we're really partnering across campus and with the School of Medicine on ensuring that our students, really meet that metric. And then finally, I would also like to say, and Boyd mentioned this much earlier in the presentation, and that was the class size. We are a small program, class size of 30. You rarely see that in PA programs anymore. That used to be the norm back when I went to PA school decades and decades ago. I went to a program also that was about 30 big, and I like that number, and I miss that number, to be honest. When I started PA education, I also started teaching in a program that was very small. And I like the idea of the familiarity that we developed, the community that we developed, the camaraderie, and just the sheer knowledge of people's lives in and out. We get to meet people's families and their kids and really become very familiar with everyone. And that lends itself to a real success story and being able to graduate everybody and be able to know what people's challenges are and also what their wins are too. So there's a lot to be said for small programs versus, programs that are 50, 60, 100 students, where sometimes you feel like, you might be a number or whatever. Finally, and I promise this is the last thing I say, I could talk all day about the PA program. We're also very technology heavy here. We're really leveraging technology as much as we can. So the School of Medicine here is an Apple recognized distinguished school, and we're hopping on board with that. I have personal experience as a distinguished educator from Apple, and I came from a previous program that I also certified as distinguished with the Apple technology. So we will be using Apple iPads here to bolster our curriculum and include them in the teaching methodologies that we're using here, and tons of software. We have already included in our budget a significant amount of software to really enhance the student experience for what they need. So lots of bells and whistles. There's a reason why we're a little pricier, and that's because we're well resourced and we're making sure that students have all the bells and whistles they want to be successful in PA school and not have to be having a talk about, well, we can't afford it, which many schools have to do. And we're deciding to have a program that is a bit of a high quality. So if you were to compare it to a car, we're basically what I think is to be like the Mercedes-Benz of PA programs in terms of resources. Where resources are concerned, we have a lot of the best things available for our students. And I'll be quiet now.
Well, before you're quiet, I'm going to jump around the question a little bit. And the next one I want to send over to you because I've gotten a couple of them. And then I'll go back up to other questions, everybody. But can you talk about the financial aid and other, return to aid and whatnot for our students?
Yes, absolutely. So financial aid is going to be available. So we have actually in our budget, we're supporting a staff member to handle all of the financial aid for our students. So there would be a lot of consistency in the financial aid planning for our students. They'll always go to the same person at that office, unless of course they're on a 2-week vacation or something. But for the most part throughout the year, they'll be able to go to the same person all the time, and they'll be able to do it right here on our School of Medicine campus. They don't have to go to the other side of campus to the big office where all the other UCSD students are. So we're really trying to prioritize that financial aid experience. The package will be put together by that office, and everyone will probably be using a lot of loans. Grad students really don't get very many grants, so it'll primarily be loans for the most part in support, and our pricing and everything really supports the students' ability to get those loans, and our financial aid office would be focused on that to ensure that. Now, return to aid is something that's required by the university and by the UC system. We are required to give back. So as we get tuition from students, we have to give a percentage back to students in the form of aid. So what that does is it decreases the cost. The cost that we're advertising right now already includes that price. Our price is actually much higher, but given that we're giving money back, that brings the cost lower to where we have it now, so that we offset the even higher cost of education. It's a shame that higher ed costs are just going up so much as they are exponentially, but they just really are nationally across the country. And California is no different. All of you are from Arizona, but if you have any familiar with California, the UCs are known for being public schools in the state of California that are higher cost than, say, the CSU system or even the community college system in the state. But we're doing everything we can to find as much grant money as we can. We plan to apply for scholarships for disadvantaged students through the HRSA federal organization, and once that's out, hopefully we're competitive and can get all of those scholarships for students. So we're doing what we can as well, seeking other grants to be able to bolster that too. I think I covered everything you asked there,
Yes,
Boyd.
yes, thank you.
Okay,
All
great.
right, let me tackle some of these as well here. So there's a question, do many applicants have research experience? Do you recommend it? So that's a great question. As far as do many applicants have it, I would say not a ton, definitely less than half. But what I will tell you specifically about our program is that's not something that we score or really consider in the application. Of course, we look at it when we're taking an overall look at someone's application, but it's not as heavily looked at as other parts of the application. So as far as if I recommend it, you know, if it's something you're interested in, research definitely isn't a bad thing. And some schools do give a little more emphasis to research in your undergraduate years. But overall, it's not a super high priority for most PA application admissions. So I wouldn't prioritize it over other experiences that you might be able to get. If you have plenty of everything and you're interested in doing research, though, that's great. I've done research, you know, as a PA as well. So it definitely happens after school. So not a bad thing to get your feet wet in if it's something you're interested in, but I would just say I wouldn't prioritize it over some of the other experiences that you might be looking for to be a competitive applicant. So let's see here. I think I had a couple more financial aid questions, which we touched on. Here's one, what kind of clinical experience has the biggest impact on an application? And, you know, I don't think there's like a black and white answer for that for sure. We have those, you know, levels of healthcare experience, but really we want someone who's out there in the world being exposed to both healthcare as far as the provider side. So seeing how PAs interact with patients, interacting with the rest of the healthcare team, and then also interacting with patients so that you know that's what you want to do with your life, right? So I don't feel like there's one just answer to the best clinical experience, but I would say one that gets you both exposed to PAs and to PAs practicing medicine, and then to your experience working with patients, you know, whether that's taking vitals and doing med rec before the visit, or working as a CNA, helping patients with activities of daily life, something that really exposes you to both sides of medicine, working with patients and seeing what PAs do in their careers, I think would be great. Do you prefer students shadow PAs in general medicine fields or in specialized one? Does it matter? And, you know, it doesn't matter, especially for us, since we don't give credit to shadowing anyways, unless it's being used for that, for those hours that you need. As far as in general, you know, I think at the pre-PA point, I really don't think it matters, because you're not there to necessarily learn how to like diagnose and treat something. So, you know, while general medicine, of course, is great, I think that really when you're shadowing at the pre-PA level, it's to get to know what a PA does, how they interact with patients, what their day looks like. So really switching up specialties, seeing what general medicine does, seeing what specialty does is all great. But again, for our program, absolutely does not matter and not something that we evaluate anyways. What types of healthcare settings are included in the clinical rotations, and how diverse are the clinical experiences offered to PA students? So that's a great question, and normally I would turn it over to our Director of Clinical Education, but she's of course not on Zoom right now, but I can definitely answer that. So the way I've heard her answer this is, you know, we're going to have kind of 3 levels of rotations, and we have the diversity to offer these to students. So the first one being, we are on this amazing healthcare campus at UC San Diego. So we hope to have lots of rotations with UC San Diego. So with the clinics around here, with the hospitals, and so that's, you know, one big area that we hope to offer rotations, or that we will offer rotations. And then we kind of have the bigger circle here, which is more of all San Diego. So of course, other clinics that are not associated with UC San Diego, where we're able to place students, but just generally in the area as well. And then bigger than that, we really do want to focus on those rural rotations too. So I would say then we're looking at San Diego as a county, as well as Imperial County, to offer amazing rural experiences that aren't super far from here, but you know, some of them will involve staying in those places, and those are things we're looking into as far as funding and whatnot. But we really kind of have those 3 circles of where we'll we'll be sending our students. And we hope to offer, of course, lots of electives. That's why we have that elective concentration. So to kind of hit at the diversity part of your question as well. In settings, all settings, outpatient, inpatient, all those things are required by our accrediting body. And so we will definitely be offering all of those experiences. The second part of that question was, does MD shadowing fall into level 1 for patient hours or just PA shadowing? If you are using shadowing hours for level 1, for those 500 hours of healthcare experience, MD shadowing, I haven't ever seen someone use MD shadowing for level 1 patient care experience, but so I don't know. Actually, Dr. Villarreal, do you have a opinion on that?
Just shadowing strictly, I don't know, just personally, I think shadowing strictly, I would say try to get other forms
Yeah.
of experience. Yeah, I don't like saying no because I like to really look at the full application and
Yeah.
really consider more of a holistic approach to it. So never say never, right? But I think that you can do better.
Yeah. Okay, I would agree. So yep, so those hours can count in that part of the application, but like Dr. Villarreal said, we really haven't seen many people use that because people are having healthcare experiences that they're using to apply to other programs, of course. But if you did need it in there, it would count. Just keep that in mind though, but we would be able to look at your overall application that way. So that's a great question. Are students graduating with honors degrees scored differently? And no, and just like we don't grade someone differently based on the school they come from, state school, private school. What I will say is we of course look at how rigorous of a curriculum someone took during undergrad, and so we will maybe notice things like that there, and those are things that we like to see, right? So when we're taking a holistic look at the application, I would say that might play a role, but like as far as mathematically scoring anything, that doesn't affect how we look at the GPA. So keep that in mind. Oh, and it looks like Nadia already helped answer that the same way. So perfect. All right, let me see. You all can type in a few more questions if you have them. We have like 5 minutes left. I also want to see if I missed anything. Oh, we talked about those breaks during the clinical rotations, and someone was asking about how those look. I believe they're every 3 months. You get a week off. You can give a thumbs up, or is that correct? During the clinical year. Yep. So during the clinical year, that's where those extra breaks are built in. For student wellness is every 3 months, you get an extra week off. And then as far as holidays look like and whatnot, so when you're in clinic, if you're in clinic over a holiday, you really work the schedule of your clinic. So, of course, some offices will have holidays off and some offices will be in clinic during the holidays. And you are expected to work during those holidays. When you're at UCSD in your didactic portion of your education, the actual holiday days will be given off, of course, across all campus. So hopefully that answers some of those. The other thing I'd like to say to that question too is we do plan on having some days where students are logging in remotely. That'll be different depending on what quarter you're in the didactic part of the curriculum, but we do hope to have days where students don't need to commute and find parking and whatnot. So that is something we hope to offer, or we will be offering as well. Let me see. Do you have any interview advice? Yeah, that's a great question too. With multiple mini interviews, I think part of the point is that you can't super well prepare because you have no idea what you're going to get when you get into that multiple mini interview room. My advice though would be to so what I always give advice, and this actually applies to more than multiple mini interviews, but what you really want to do is sit down, think about the experiences you've had so far that have led you to where you're at, both good and challenging, and how it kind of got you to where you are. Because what you're going to want to do during an interview is think back to those and use specific examples. So I think my best advice is to be prepared as far as knowing yourself, right? So get to know yourself and the experiences you've had and including both challenging and successes, and just have those ready and at the tip of your tongue to share with the interviewers. You know, we want to get to know you. We want to hear about those. The other thing I'll say, and it might help with nerves, is don't forget that you're interviewing the program too. You know, you are going to be spending a lot of time and money with this program, and so you are there to learn about them too. And so so just keep that in mind. That might help with the nerves and whatnot. So let's see, it looks like I think I'm caught up and we're just about at 5:30. So I think we'll probably close the questions there. And thank you so much for attending tonight. And like I said, you know, if you want to hear a little bit more, a little more in depth or ask more questions, feel free to come to one of our Meet the Programs in the future, and those will all be up on our website.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you, everyone.
Muchas gracias.